Now, nothing goes better with a good comic book than alcohol. And for me, I'm more of a beer person, but I also enjoy a good mixed drink. And I think I somehow this popped up on my Facebook feed. It's Comics and Tonics. And inside, there's uh, recipes and illustrations on how to make a drink if you're somebody like me and are a very poor mixologist, I guess. So let me bring in Andrew Vee and Alex Swell, two of the guys that did the book, and let's find out a little bit more about comics and tonics. And you know, I'm ready to be educated on mixed drinks because, like I said, I'm a beer person. So,
well, we're happy to be here with you, and thank you so much for inviting us today, Chad.
First off, I'm drinking the Blind Devil.
Good choice.
It is really good. Sorry.
Got that one off.
One down.
Fix that in edit. Fix that in post. No, just kidding. So before we start talking about
a lot better when you're about 4 in. So
okay. So before we get started talking about the comic book that you guys put together, how about you say about your history with comics? Would you do if you remember the first one you kind of read, or the kind of along that line?
Yeah.
Course.
You want to go first, Andrew?
Yeah, I'll go first. So when I was younger, I wasn't really into comic books per se, but I definitely watched a lot of the animated shows like Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men universe. So that really got me into the comic world in a sense. I wouldn't say even I started buying comics after that. After that, I actually just started drawing my own superheroes a lot and just got really fascinated with the art and the storytelling. And then eventually it wasn't really until my teenage years that I started buying comics on my own and wanting to read more. I bought a lot of the mainstream comics, mainstream storylines, and I just loved it. It's the world I fell into immediately. And then I soon realized that comics are an expensive hobby. Like if you're buying them often, it gets very expensive. So the teenage version of myself kind of limited myself on how many comics I was buying. So like I said, I stuck a lot to mainstream comic books and storylines. And ever since, really, I've always loved the art. I've always loved, digesting something that has just a great storyline. And with comics, for me, it's like the possibilities are endless to tell a story. So that's kind of where I started and how I got into comics. And, me and Alex have been best friends since, how old are we, 15, 14? I don't know, I don't remember the number. But, when we hang out, I'd go to a comic book shop with them and I'd introduce them a little and we both just got into it. So that's pretty much my story behind comics. And, I don't miss a single Marvel or DC movie, even if I'm not really excited about it because I'm into the comic world. So one way or another, I'm going to watch the movie or digest whatever is being put out there. But yeah, that's really how I got into them.
Great. And I'll kind of just piggyback on that. For me, if Andrew said it took him a little while to get into it, I'm probably even later. Andrew grew up with 2 brothers, and I think he got to kind of experience every once in a while a comic book that one of his brothers were reading. For me, I didn't really get introduced to it until I started hanging out with Andrew. I remember one of the first main ones that I read was the graphic novel for Watchmen. And I really think, that was, it was for me the perfect blend of this amazing art form, amazing use of storytelling, but in a medium that I've never really got to experience before. And from there, walking from his house over to the local comic book store, picking up a couple. Usually I didn't follow the mainstream. I would just look for the ones with the best covers, which ended up usually with the worst stories. But they were still a lot of fun to just experience what people were creating. For me, I think I ended up more on the alcohol side. So we just had a perfect duo. It might be the Irish in me, but we really took kind of the 2 passions that we had and found a way to work together.
So you kind of hit on it there. What was the kind of the inspiration for the comic, and how did that kind of process start from a thought until the what you guys came up with?
So how much time do you have, Chad? It was a long journey, definitely. I would say we had graduated high school. I remember I was over at Andrew's house and we were sitting on the couch, and Andrew kind of just started talking to me about something that he wanted to achieve one day, which was saying, I just want to open up a comic book themed bar. Said, I just want to have a place where I can have a good drink and we can have comic books there and we can just relax. That would just be the most optimal experience. And I was sitting with him, and we always like playing with words. And so the name Comics and Tonics came up, and it was one that we were just like, yeah, like that is exactly what we want to do. I've always enjoyed tech. And so I picked up the domain name that night, and we sat on it. We sat on it for probably 3 or 4 years, not knowing what to do with Comics and Tonics. And we started brainstorming one day. We said, we have such a good domain name. We have a brandable item here. Let's actually move forward with it before we're retired. So we started saying, maybe we'll become an apparel business because that's what everyone does. And that's the easiest thing to accomplish. So fictional bar, real apparel. But we really, it ended up saying it needs to be more. It needs to be something that the name relates to. And I don't know when it was, but the idea of just doing a comic book that allowed you to see how to mix the drinks in the form of comic book panels, we just felt like that was it. There was no moving away from that idea once it came up. And we started the process about 3 years ago, and the rest was history. Anything you'd like to add, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, like what you were saying, it's just a funny story how it came about. Because like he was saying, it's just an idea I had in my head of like, oh, a bar would be cool, like comic themed bar, that's awesome. And Comics and Tonics came about, and then Alex is like, let's take it a step further. How do we do this? And that's how the book came about. And I was like, why? That was such an easy solution to to figuring out how to find a medium. It was right in front of us the whole time. And like I said, that's my goal for retirement. Alex goes, why wait until retirement? Let's do this right now. Let's start something. And that's how it came to be. And we haven't looked back. And yeah, it took a while. It's been a long time in the making because, I went to college. He started his own businesses, several businesses, and we kind of sat on it for a long time. And then we got back at it. And, for me, and I'm pretty sure for him, the passion was still there because it really does seem like it was an idea that could take off.
Mm-hmm. So, in the book, how many? Let's see, one. I'm just counting the number of drinks that you have, and
yeah, we have about 10.
Okay, and I think when you suggested that I make the Blind Devil, it was kind of, apropos, I guess, because I was finishing up the 3rd season of Daredevil at the time.
Perfect. I'm glad I recommended that then.
So, how did you guys come up with the different drinks? Is it recipes that you've done before, or just?
It was actually, in business, you always say, where are your write-offs? Where can you write off something? And for us, like, what better way to have a business write-off than buying any alcohol and mixer that you could, and getting into a room for about 2 days and just mixing as many drinks as we could. We have one other partner in the group, and my wife is a food scientist. So we really sat in a room, and she kind of taught us about how to build flavors, what to look for, how to do the measurements so that it makes sense when people are making it at home. And from there, we were pretty much off to the races. We were trying to think. Number one was coming up with the name, right? Something that was connected to comic book culture without getting in trouble. We wanted to play on everything as much as we could. And then from there, we thought, okay, usually color translates the best. So the Blind Devil, we looked at what they wore and tried to translate that into a drink. But I would say one of the most important things for us was we could come up with some amazing flavors, but they are very hard to achieve at home. And that's something we didn't want to happen. We didn't want this nice piece of art that no one could actually enjoy because they don't know how to make their own syrups or they can't afford the ingredients. So for us, it was saying, how do we match good, simple cocktails that you can make at home in this medium that people could do on a daily or weekend basis without breaking the bank.
And so, why don't we go through the drinks? As of course we've already talked about the Blind Devil, which I'm drinking and is really good. and
Wow.
and if I think I made it right. I mean, if I can make a drink, anybody can make a drink.
Yeah, when we started this, I wasn't a huge cocktail maker. That's where, thank goodness, his wife came in and was like, "Let me help you guys out a little bit." So it was really fun, just experimenting like anything else. With it's creative form, really. You take things that taste good to you and drinks you like, and you find something that works. I think when we were doing this, I was the sweet drink specialist. Like, I love really sweet drinks, so that's what I was focused on. And Alex, before we did this book, he was getting into cocktails already, so he was ready to go and experiment. So definitely any sweet drink you see in here, that one was me.
So the truth serum is that as I was going through it, I was trying to figure out which character would associate with the drink, and truth serum. I was kind of seems like I don't want to say a generic term, but
I think you're right in that. No, that's exactly what we were going for. We wanted to play off tropes and different aspects of the comic world, like he said, without going into too much depth of who we're speaking about, or because these are big businesses we're talking about, and the last thing we want to do is take something from them. So we did make it generic. That was you're not wrong to say that.
Yeah, so some of them are based off of characters, some of them are based off of tropes or plays that you see consistently within comic book series.
Like I think I can figure out what In Brightest Day is based off of.
We'll leave that to you to decide.
And I assume it's a certain green color when you make it.
Oh, is that what it looks like? Is that what it came out to look like?
Yeah, so
I don't know. I haven't made it.
That one's actually one of our favorites in terms of the naming convention, because when you do make that drink, it's actually a pure black drink. So what we try to do, obviously, is then just take the next form of the tagline and play off of that. But one of the best parts was coming up with the names, because we had a list of probably over 50, and some of them you're like, no one's going to know what that means, and others are you're like, that's a little too on the nose. But
yeah, definitely.
And I also found it was kind of cool that in the first 2 pages of the comic, you got, and I tried to scan pictures in earlier, but you guys have pictures of the glassware and I guess the other utensils you would need to kind of make drinks. That's kind of cool, I think. I won't show you. I won't show you what I mixed my drink in.
No, I'm on the same page with that. Like I said, I am not familiar with any of the tools until we got into making them. Alex was like, "Yeah, it'd be a good idea to show someone who's not familiar with drinks but wants to kind of get into drink making and mixology." I thought it was a great idea, and it helps you out a lot, because sometimes when instruction manuals or recipe books show you something, they don't always show you everything, and I thought that was really important to show what we use and how we measure.
And I was also kind of in the art in the panels. You have one of you making the drink. How did you guys have to kind of model what you were the way to do it for the art to be for the artist to kind of capture that?
Yeah, so what we did was we actually did a photo shoot for every single panel in the book. So we would grab all the ingredients. We would probably take anywhere between 10 to 30 photographs for each panel, find the drink, the shot that we felt captured that action the best. Also, while at the same time thinking about how it would be laid out, so you're not just seeing the same shot over and over again. And once we had the images that were chosen, we worked with our artist, and he would pretty much try to reincorporate it. Some of them are direct sketches over, some of them are his interpretation of those. But it ended up, and that's one of the reasons why I think it took so long, was trying to do a photo shoot with all 10 drinks. But I think the result kind of speaks for itself, because you get this fun experience, and hopefully things don't end up repeating themselves based off of the approach that we took.
Yeah, there was.
I think some of my favorite shots are, where you're like kind of, where you're doing the pour from the up above.
Yeah, that made quite a mess.
I'm sorry, Andrew, you were getting ready to say something?
Oh no, I was saying, yeah, I feel like the photos and picking which photos we wanted, there's a lot of back and forth, like, oh, that looks really good, but how many can we fit on the page? And so that did take like a long time, because we wanted something that was aesthetically pleasing when it's on the page and when it gets translated to an illustration, because not all of them would look great if we chose them and it was translated. But like even on Damsel in Distress, of just simply cutting the lemon in half, like you see that kind of like pow bang effect in the background. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful.
So you guys have been saying that it took a while to get this out. How long did it take the artist, once he had the photos, to kind of capture what he needed to capture in order to show the method for making the drink?
Yeah, I actually think that the artist himself was faster than all of us. We were the one wasting his time, and at the end of the day, I would say from coming up with the names to coming up with the drinks and the recipes and just trying to get everyone together, because we did live in different states, was probably the thing that took the longest. Once we were able to provide the assets over to the illustrator, he was able to do a full drink in about 2 weeks, which we felt was very good turnaround for what we were asking.
And how did you, get connected to the artist?
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited about this. And from a business perspective, we were always saying, like, how do we achieve what we want to do? And I've had experience with working with freelancers in the past and never knowing what the outcome is going to be. But we got very, very lucky here. So we did meet a freelancer. I really enjoyed his work. And we got connected with him and found that it was a great partnership. His name's Nero, and he is featured in the comic book itself on the cover page. And I would really push, because I want to see his career take off just as much. We had the original founders of Comics and Tonics, but he ended up kind of becoming a co-founder along the way. He lives in the Philippines, but he's been working with us over the last 2.5 years to make this book come to fruition. So it's been a great partnership.
Yeah, he has I like the the style and the coloring. It brings a lot to just the, I don't want to say mundaneness of mixing a drink, but it also helps kind of set the mood. Like you're in a bar, you're watching the bartender make the drink.
Yeah.
And I noticed that on your Facebook page, you guys have been kind of putting up some more recipes, every now and then. Is there plans to do more of this? Do another book, or more drinks?
So Andrew, you want to take this one?
Yeah, definitely. So we started once the book came out. We really wanted to obviously get it going and start advertising it to not only our friends and family, but to the comic lover community, essentially. And so I've been taking over on that a little bit, and we're still working with Nero, and he's doing a great job. And honestly, we are we are just as much excited about seeing like new drinks and people doing new drinks as anybody else. So we go through like so many pictures and recipes on Instagram, and we obviously credit the original mixologist and all that good stuff. But yeah, definitely in the future we're working towards more series of this, because I thought it was fun, and I'm sure Alex thought it was fun too. Not only the first process of just making drinks with your buddies, but like how it turned out. I don't want to say I was surprised, because I knew it looked cool, but I was like blown away of how professional it looked for this kind of being our first go at it, and it came out great. And we're looking forward to working with Nero some more, but we're also looking forward to essentially get more artists with different styles, because honestly, when you go into a comic book shop, if you're a first timer, like say Alex was going in, and you're looking at the artwork, like that's obviously the first thing that catches your attention is the artwork. So that's definitely what we're excited about, is bringing not only new artists, but new mixologists, like professionals that do this for a living, be like, oh yeah, let's work together, let's collaborate, let's make something. And yeah, so we're definitely working towards that. And our social media pages are small right now, but we're growing them, and we're hoping that everything we put out is being spotted, and each new week we're getting new followers and new comments, so that's always great.
Yeah, and I would like to add on a little bit there. For us, mixology has become such a craft, right? It's people see it as a true art form. They're there not only to create something that tastes amazing, but they care about the look of it, the appearance, and everything that goes into tasting and enjoying that cocktail itself. And so as we grow, and as we hopefully continue to see some success off of this book, which is what I think everyone hopes for, we really want to try to see if we can get top of the the mixologists that are just doing the most in the industry right now, and use them as our heroes. Partner with them and say, you can't have a comic book without a hero. And so our heroes are hopefully going to become these mixologists, and we can do multiple series with them as they kind of continue to grow.
Who better to serve as our saviors than those who pour us our drinks, essentially.
How was it seeing yourself rendered as a comic character for the first time?
That's a good question, because for me, I loved it. I thought it was so unique, but then you do start picking out things. You're like, oh man, is that how I look? But I think it was a very fun way to see it.
I think the artist made a mistake, because in the photograph you have hair. So.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't going to mention that.
No, it is cool to see yourself in illustrated form. I was like, oh wow, that's what I look like with a little bit more muscle. I should probably start working out more. But yeah, it was cool to see it translate for sure. And
kind of going back to the comic book, the last drink in the book is Adios, Mother Martha. I take that's a shout out to the world's finest heroes, whose mothers are both named Martha.
Yeah, I gotta say that was one of my more prouder names to make. I was like, this is great, this is perfect, and the drink it's for is even better. So I think that was, like you said, naming them was probably like one of the most fun parts of doing this book.
I know my friend who sometimes co-hosts with me for his wedding, they had their wedding was Doctor Who inspired or themed, and they had one called a sonic screwdriver, and I was trying to remember what it was, but it was I'm going to mess up the name. Blue Curacoa, 7-Up, I think maybe vodka and something else, but it was when all mixed together, it was blue. And it was amazing. If I find the recipe, I'll send it to you.
Oh, please do. Yeah, like he was saying, like it just seems like such a great combination, because there is a lot of time that goes into making like the perfect drink or the most well balanced drink, and when you see that effort, like put into the drink, you could actually see the effort put into that drink. Because some drinks you see and you're like, oh, okay, thanks, like thanks bartender for that drink, I needed it. But then you see a drink that stands out, you do want to take a picture of it, you do want to show your friends, you do want to figure out what is in this drink. And I think the coming together of not only the comic world, which is super bright, super colorful, emphasized in everything and exaggerated on everything, it just works perfectly with a perfect drink that is something you could hold, that is something you could digest and hopefully share online and share with your friends.
I know I was at a conference maybe a week or two after the wedding, and we were out at one of the bars, and I wanted ask the bartender if he could make the drink for me. He goes, and I pulled up the recipe on my phone, and he goes, I love it when people show me their phone with a drink recipe.
Yeah,
but he made the drink for me.
Yeah, okay, buddy.
But
yeah,
no, I think it's a really cool idea and really a cool concept, which is why it, kind of caught my eye when it popped up in. I think it must have popped up in my Facebook feed, but I'm glad it did.
I'm
we
good.
are too.
Luckily, the targeted ads seem to work. We were able to say target people who like comic books. Got them.
And alcohol.
And alcohol, absolutely. Can't forget that.
So, I don't know. Is there anything else that you guys maybe wanted to say, or we didn't cover about the project and about the drinks?
So one of the things, I think the last part that I would want to kind of cover is when it went into the actual producing of the comic book, printing it out, we really considered what is the final form going to be. Obviously, we knew it was going to be a comic book, but printing it, we made some decisions that we hope translate well to not only comic book enthusiasts, but also enjoyers of making cocktails. And it was to make one that's a little bit more sturdy. I think when you feel it, the matte cover, a little bit more thicker, pliable pages, it's there. So it's meant to be your companion in the kitchen. So there might get water on it. There might be some items where it's not just going to be a pristine comic book. It's there to be your sidekick. And so for us, for the price point, hopefully it's a good, it makes sense for everyone.
No, I know that when I was mixing my drink earlier, I was, kept going back to it and looking at and it's nice that I could look at, panel by panel how it was, what I needed to add.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely someone who needs to see things. I'm a visual learner, so like I think maybe that's why I like comics, because you see, and then having recipes. Say you're doing something for dinner or something, and you're following a recipe, and you just overlook one little detail, and you're like, oh, I just messed up the whole meal. Whereas this, you have literally picture by picture. No, you can't mess this up. We're showing you how to do it. So it's really helpful.
All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, where can people find your book and get your book?
Yeah, so we made it pretty easy, I hope. You can just go to comicsandtonics.com. From there, you can purchase it. We sell mainly focused in the United States. We do have the availability to have it shipped into other countries, but we are looking for better ways to bring down that shipping cost, just because shipping overseas can be expensive. But yeah, comicsandtonics.com, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook as well. So thank you so much, Chad. We really appreciate being on with you tonight.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to have you. Thanks and glad we were able to set this up. And if at any if you guys come out with another edition and you want to help getting the word out, I'll drink to that. How about that?
Absolutely. We'll definitely send you a copy for sure.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it.
Well, stay safe and stay healthy, and cheers.
Cheers. Take care.
And
Bye-bye.
and if you want to open a comic book themed bar, I'm a home brewer, so.
Hey,
So there
there
we
you
go. We got the resources. We're looking. Yeah, we're ready.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Bye.